Yeah, Erkki, Timmerbacka.
We could put a little American spin on it.
Yeah, actually. I don't believe you.
The three most difficult languages to learn is Cantonese, Finnish, and Japanese. Those are the three hardest languages to learn.
I don't believe that. Yeah. Yeah, there are similarities.
No, Finnish is related more to the Czech. Slavic.
Hungarian.
Slavic, yeah, Hungarian.
Not really Slavic. It is a language of its own actually.
Okay.
and so Hungarians are related to. Yeah. That language is related. Yeah. And Estonians even.
And somebody told me that maybe the Basque language was related to this. Is that true?
I don't know.
I think nobody knows where the Basque language comes from.
Oh,
It's mysterious.
so there must be a relation to the Finnish then. But I've been lately studying slightly Russian, and that is again something really different. Yeah.
I forgot all my Russian. I learned a little Russian before we went to Russia.
Yeah, I do remember.
But when I was there, I could actually read some from English.
Yeah.
But nobody wanted to speak Russian with me because they all wanted to practice English.
Of course.
They never get anywhere we were saying Kazan and Abraham and native English speakers practice.
Of course, yeah.
So I decided in my book to put something where,
So, Erkki, Timmerbacka, Christian. Yeah. Nice to meet you. Yeah. So, now it's time to listen a little bit urban logistics. I'm so interested to understand your points of view because the culture is in here different and the possibilities are different. And so that's why I wanted to be in here.
What brought you to Portland?
Pardon?
What brought you to Portland?
Yeah. Yeah, relatives, family members. Yeah. Yeah, we came last Thursday, and so we have been traveling slowly. Tacoma, Astoria, and Hillsborough. Good question. Yeah, good point. Yeah.
It is? Okay. And we're going to, before we go online, I'll do some quick introductions around the room. Just your name and affiliation, so our speaker knows a little bit about his audience, at least the in-present audience. So why don't we start with you?
I'm Jason, and I'm a community development student. I'm Chris Smith, I'm a transportation activist and a candidate for city council.
Why don't we go back row?
I am the nephew and the host for Erkki, okay? And that's my wife's uncle. Okay, so I'm here I'm retired. I'm a PSU grad of 1977, so it's been a while.
I'm Ellen Vanderslice, I'm with the City of Portland Office of Transportation, and I had the pleasure to meet Erkki 11 years ago and stay with his family in Finland, so I'm responsible for being here today.
Okay, well, welcome everyone. I'm going to move on to the formal part because we are being webcast now. My name is Jennifer Dill. I'm a faculty member in Urban Studies and Planning, and along with my colleagues Chris Monsieur and Miguel Figliosi, I help organize this weekly seminar. And so welcome everyone. I'm going to remind everyone, or tell you perhaps for the first time, that we do webcast the seminars, so people are watching live on the web, or they may watch an archived version of this in the future. And because of that, when we do get to questions and answers, try to use the microphones that are on most of the desks and hold the touch button down with the red light lit while you're asking your questions so that the people on the web can hear. If for some reason there isn't a microphone near you or it's not working, we have this portable one, and Chris Monsieur will walk around and make sure that your question is recorded and everyone can hear it. So please remember that. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce our speaker today. Our speaker today comes a long way. I think maybe might set one of our records for the longest distance traveled to speak with us today, and that's his name is Erkki Timmerbacka. I was close, maybe, in the pronunciation.
You're correct.
Okay. He's a senior consultant with established United Logistics Group, and in particular with their Finland office. And so he's going to be talking today about some pretty interesting ideas about sustainable urban logistics. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to you. Thank you.
Thank you. So, good morning from my side, and greetings from Finland. In Finland now we have late winter, actually. This year pretty bad winter, but that is anyway the winter time, and I have been so pleased to see the spring weather here during the last couple of days along my whole trip, starting from Tacoma, Astoria, and now here in Portland area. My subjects, what I'm going to talk to you is very familiar to me, so that is a good side. The bad side for you is that my English is not that good. So if you don't understand me, just ask questions, and so we probably solve the misunderstandings together. So first a couple, does this work? Yeah. One slide, open a little bit who actually I am. First, slightly as a person over there. And as you can see, I have been there around logistics quite a long time, working on it over 30 years. So I am in a way an old dog, or I don't know how do you call this, old seniors. And my idea in here is actually that there are two ideas. this is something which what I really like to discuss with young students in different cultures, because there are interesting differences, and that is all the time a learning experience for me, actually. And then the other and the main reason is that we have been running a project over 2 years in Helsinki area, and that has gotten nice understanding from the consumers and from the industries in Finland. But Finland is totally different as US, and what I am very curious about is what is your response, and please be open. This is not the only solution what we have been studying it there. That is only one option, and I'm very curious in understanding your point of views in there. So this is going to be the content of my small presentation. Some backgrounds, some findings in that ongoing project, and then a little bit opening the coming testing period. We are so far that we are already running the services what we are targeting for, and so-called research period for that service is going to be open now in roughly there around in April. And then as last part, the questions and the discussion from your side. But you are free to raise your questions all the time during my presentation, so be free. The targets in these projects were actually to speed up e-commerce. We did have quite many projects running in our country, some, let's say, starting 10 years ago and lasting a couple of years. And usually all of those were some kind of failures. The service was not good enough, or the prices for the services were too high. And so the retailers which were running those pilotings were closing those activities one after each others. And the reason why we are trying to open that in high volumes, if possible, is that the understanding is that with e-commerce or online shopping, the families are able to reach better service, actually. And the other reason is that this is going to be more environment friendly, actually, as our nowadays behaviors. And there down also you are seeing quite a nice list of participating parties in this project. So there are a couple of retailers, food industry, ICT companies, and a couple of logistic service providers, and then some technology providers. Like one surprisingly complicated question is how to make it possible that when there is a home delivery, all the goods are coming at homes in correct temperatures. When I go shopping, there is no problems with temperatures. Only when I pass some friends by over there or discuss with some friends, and so something may go wrong in my shopping bag. Maybe my wife is going to say something about that, but otherwise there's no problems. But when the service provider is doing that, so all the temperatures has to be correct when the shipment arrives home. And actually implementing that for small volumes is quite complicated. because all the time there is also the need for low costs. Yeah, and then also two public authorities have been participating in the project. Espoo is a part of Helsinki metropolitan area, separate town, but actually for citizens a part of the same area. And then we do have a more, let's say, real rural area in central Finland, because the countryside is pretty complicated when we like to implement these kind of services. So nice list of participants, so that is not a problem. The problems lies in somewhere else actually. And this is another background. This slide shows you the transportation needs for family. Weekly number of trips. And there are pretty high variation on those numbers. And the reason is that, as you see there under, it depends from the family's characters, depending where the family is going on. Like I am just now reaching the young seniors level with my wife. Children are grown, and we already have the grandchildren. And then a little bit different point of view. There is all the time a change going on, a speeding change, and which is related to the retail. Internet is anyway coming to that. Also for the grocery shops and daily goods. And then also we are facing the question of consolidation of the services to a larger shopping malls and shopping centers, which usually are a little bit far away. And that is those services are good, but they also create traffic, and that is seen more and more also as a problem. And at least in northern part of Europe, the increase of the share of senior citizens is what we are facing, and actually the services which are more distant are not really good for senior citizens. And then one question is what we have seen in our consumer questionnaires is that young families are short of time in organizing the family's logistics, like I like to call it, is quite a busy job. And then there is the climate change question. And I would like to say that not only the advanced companies have intention to benefit it. And that is what we are going to face globally. Quite many authorities are going to be active on that. EU, local governments, certainly in Oregon also, I'm sure, and also other public bodies are going to be active in that area. And also the awareness of that topic is creating the situation that a larger and larger share of families are getting interested over the CO2 footprints. And then in Europe we have the situation that Tesco, the market leader in daily goods retail in the UK, they have at the moment they're around 3 or 4% from their revenue coming from online shopping, and that is the top figure actually in Europe at the moment. And one estimation is nobody actually knows, but one estimation is to say that in roughly 5 years, the leading countries are going to have their around 5% on online shopping, and 10% is going not to be a limit later on. And that means a very high change actually in the structures for retailers. A high amount of self-service is going to be organized as logistic services for the families, and also a nice amount of traffic is going to be avoided, which is also an interesting target. But as I said, actually nobody knows really what is going to happen, or at least how fast the change will be around different countries. Here are a couple slides showing the figures we have been finding out in our customer surveys. And on this side you are able to see how the families have been interested in, depending from the age of the parents. And as you can easily see, the young families here in the middle are the most interested one. And actually the senior citizens should be also interested, but probably because of our way how to organize the questioning, we are using internet. Maybe that was not so suitable for senior citizens, actually. And then the other slide shows how the interest grows when the size of the family grows. Lots of families like to have services, it looks like. But this is a Finnish point of view, and I'm very curious, how do you see this in your culture? Then the next slide is showing, is asking if there are interest for so-called shared taxi services, like we are able to see in some countries. Taxi, but the taxi is free to take other clients during the trip, and actually everything is organized before the trips. And that is a way how to have the better loadings in the taxis or minibuses, and to have a lower costs also for that. And then the same question to the families, depending do they have their own car. I'm sure that in here everybody has at least one or several cars at home, but we do have families, at least young families, and also all elderly citizens who don't have their own car. And this question is raised, that what is the difference between families which have car or not car available. So, anyway, the major target for this kind of service are young families with children. And that is actually the major target also usually for retailers everywhere. And what they are seeking for is that they like to save time, and they are ready to buy something for that. And they do see also that the repeating routine shopping or routine visiting in the shops is something what they like to avoid. And that is something which is not really shopping. That is only picking up the routines. And also they have the understanding that transportation of children to their hobbies is already a challenge or a burden for the families, and like one answer to us was that one mother wrote that I would like to stay home time to time, not all the time going with them to their hobbies and doing something else there meanwhile at home. And then the other major group is actually the senior citizens, because the shopping bag is heavy for them, and maybe here not, but very often in Europe they are lacking the means of transportation, so their own cars, or at least they would like to live without a need to have their own car when they have reached a certain age. And also the question that when senior citizens stay at home, then comes the question of loneliness, and so going out is something what is wanted for them. Then there was also questioning to the companies related to their transportation needs, very local needs, and the answers were like here we can see. There are quite many companies who are doing their local small transportation needs with their own vehicles. And the share is almost the same as what they are organized with service providers. And that means that actually the services are not really meeting the needs. We are able to deliver overnight to far distances, but if there is a need to ship a couple miles same day in 2 hours, that is complicated, at least in Europe. I don't know here. And the share of own deliveries is even higher in outgoing shipments in companies. Do you have any comments on that? Could that be roughly the same situation in here or not? Has no one? Yeah, please.
Well, the trucking industry has two different types of markets.
Yeah.
One is called, one's long haul, you just fill up a trailer.
Yeah.
Somebody's goods. The other is LTL.
Yeah.
Where it's,
sorry. Where their business is doing exactly that, sharing as much as they can, and we see a lot of that with shipments going to the airport.
Yes, I see. Yeah. Interesting, good to hear. Thank you. So during our study, we found that actually the service idea should be, like we like to call it, a service provider for the households, not a service provider for the retailers. And what is the difference is what is written there below. The idea is to seek the possibility that the families may consolidate or combine different shipments. Like in our testing period in Espoo, we have opened the possibility to deliver library services, books and videos to home at the same time when the shopping bag is delivered. And the idea is in here, that simple idea that like with my own car, I am able to do several issues at the during the same trip. And also when we are doing online shopping, that should be possible. Because online shopping, should be better organized from the point of view of consumers. And when we found that simple idea that consumers should be able to consolidate the shipments, so we came also to the question that it's getting complicated. It is very quickly getting very complicated. And some of my colleagues said that, Erkki, don't go to that way, that there is going to be, you are going to face problems in there. But anyway, that is what families like to have. And that we also found out in our surveys. And so we took the idea that we like to go that road, but also understand at the same time that, like there is some saying, how it is able to eat an elephant, only piece by piece, not as a whole at the same time. But we are now opened, we have now opened the testing period, and during that period we will be able to see what combinations actually are interesting for the families, and what are the consequences, how complicated the logistics actually then is, and can that be organized in a way that the quality is good enough. And then a little bit same idea for local companies. At least in Nordic countries, nowadays there is a lot of discussions about the local producers and their possibilities to reach the market. And now with this service, there's the idea to open the possibilities a little bit better for them at the same time. And it is interesting to see during the testing period, are we really able to organize that? And then we also came to the question for the shopping centers or shopping malls. I'm not very sure how should I name that, but anyway, we have an ongoing discussion there. It is shown here. No, let me see. That is a little bit later. Ongoing discussion with the local shopping center in Espoo. Could that shopping center have a virtual duplicate where you could visit in different shops and do the online shopping and deliveries at the same time? And principally this is interesting, but let's see how that is going to be in real life. And then the competition situation. When we like to change something, we are touching of course the competition in there. And the understanding is that the biggest competitor for this kind of different ideas is going to be the existing services and our existing behaviors. And it is really going to be a challenge how to organize an online shopping services in high volumes when we are used to do all the shopping like we are doing it today. And also because the retailers with their systems are actually very good. There are clever ideas and very well done processes around. And then the next question here, what I have written down is that when it is usually so that, as also you see in US, that if one retailer likes to open an online shopping, they do it of their own, and that is easy to organize, and there is quite easy to get to organize the differentiation from the competitors, which is so important for them. And also that decreases the needs, the traffic needs. And then, of course, households, they had to pay every delivery separately. And also the decrease in the traffic needs is going to be a little bit lower. And but this is also a good solution, and we don't know yet that is there actually room for, like we say, SeuLo-like concepts, or is the future going to be that retailers are going to have their own systems, and that is that. And what we have been planning actually is only that to do active marketing towards retailers and motivate them that these kind of neutral services would be the most beneficial for them. But that is not going to be the case in reality for everybody, of course. And then the decision makers are actually families. And the other direction for marketing activities are towards families, actually. And that is also going to be a tough issue. During our testing period in Espoo, it's easy to get organized also in the area of marketing because local papers are interested. This is something new. They like to write about that. But later on, the marketing is going to be more difficult. And then the question of shopping centers, or should I call those shopping malls? Also in Finland, and I do see in Nordic countries, those have been winning and are winning in the market share. They have a very nice variety of services available, and they also are very keen for investors. So new different kind of shopping centers are arising all the time there around. And at the same time, there are also problems related to those. One is the traffic question, and then one is that those are not really well organized for routine shopping. Routine shopping there is pretty time consuming, actually. And like we understood in our questionnaires, there are a lot of families who like to avoid that at least time to time. And so we came to the idea that actually shopping centers should be using online possibilities, and they should get organized jointly, and that is also maybe a good answer against or towards those retailers who like to get organized of their own online offerings. And this is the first place we are going to test that actually in Espoo in Finland, and that is a shop called Tapiola. They're already 50 years old, and it used to be called so-called Garden City of Finland earlier. And as you see, the location there is pretty nice on the coast, and there are some 40,000 inhabitants and the same number of working places around. And in Tapiola there are roughly 100 different retailer and other service shops available. And the very interesting and ongoing discussion is just now that could it be possible to organize for them a virtual duplicate? And we don't have the answer yet. That is going to be seen during the coming months. And it is very interesting. And the idea in there is to organize, especially for those smaller shops, quite a nice, ready variety of services like order placing and pick-up services, and then also the collections of the parcels from the shops, and then also terminal services and deliveries. And we already have a nice logistic service provider who is interested to test that kind of services there around. And then the big question is that are really are consumers going to be interested really or not? And all what I have been explaining here has an possibility to create the shopping behaviors more environment friendly, actually. There is among those participants in this project are also logistic service providers, and they do, principally at least, they do have interest to create a so-called SeuLo company. And but that shall be made actually a little bit later, maybe after half a year from now, when we have more reliable results from the testing period. And then one very interesting issue is the communality as a service supplement, especially in countryside, when we like to offer online shopping services for daily goods. It is quite complicated to get organized so that the cost level should be on understandable level. And it may be so that there has to be used also other ideas, like if a couple of parents or people are traveling between a village and a little bit larger center daily, probably they are willing to do some transportation for the others. And maybe especially when a local sport club or other organization is interested to collect some money using that service. This is more in discussions at the moment. We know that there are village organizations who like to have the good services in distant villages, which are interested to get organized. But if that is really going to work, let's see. And as I said, we are now open to the testing period. The consolidations until now are pretty few. Like I said, only daily goods and books from the bibliothèque. But the complexity is going to be made better and higher during the coming months. In the opening, there are some 50 families involved, and there are quite many on the waiting list. After the marketings in the local papers. We have get quite nice number of families who like to come with, and so we are anticipating that maybe until to the end of the year there shall be there are around 400 families involved in the testing, and that gives us the possibility to test different kind of processes and the different kind of combinations. And there is also the idea to do this everything openly, and also the idea to invite interested parties to discuss that and to discuss the possibilities. And the reason for that is that actually we are touching quite complicated issues, and we don't have all the answers actually, and that's why discussions are needed in there. This a little bit shows we as logisticians we have to draw our material flows, otherwise we don't understand what we are doing. But this is not really that important in here. So now we are so far. I do close my mouth. I would like to listen. What are your comments? And please be not polite. That is what I don't need actually. So, yeah, please.
I guess I'm curious on what the effects on employment would be if, for say, 50% of all the goods move to this this method that you're talking about, this e-commerce sort of delivery of goods, what that would do to the service sector employment, and if it would be offset by any gains in the trucking industry or whatever the delivery services would be.
Yeah. The understanding is that when we are changing a huge amount of self-service to the services, so the number of needed employees is going to grow. And at the same time, of course, there are going to be parties which don't really like the change, like all the time when we are trying to do something different. And what the trucking industry and other parties are, service providers are going to say, we don't really know yet. We are going to see that later on. Yeah, please.
So you were struggling between the phrases shopping mall and shopping center.
Yeah.
And we actually have a new phrase here, which is lifestyle center.
Okay.
And I think
I like that.
Well, it's interesting because I think we can differentiate a number of different kinds of shopping. You know, there's your regular shopping for groceries or pharmacy and those things.
Yeah.
Where I could see there'd be the time-saving benefit.
Yeah.
But the lifestyle centers are now promoting shopping as an experience.
Yeah.
And it seems to me that would be very difficult to supplant with this kind, because the shopping trip is the experience. The benefit is the shopping, not necessarily the goods that you buy in some ways.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then I think we have, at least in the United States, sites like Amazon that are trying to aggregate shopping for everything. So if you want to order online, you could probably find it at Amazon. So they're trying to aggregate from the e-commerce end. And do you have a view of how all those different shopping experiences would play into this model?
Yeah. Actually, for me, this is a very good point. And actually, the retailers and the designers for, as I said, for shopping centers, which is really tomorrow no more shopping center, that is a leisure place where you can really enjoy experience the different kind of activities. That is a a way of good marketing, actually. And then there's only the question that do we have really at the same time carry everything what we have both in there? Yeah. But anyway, that is a good question. You there behind first.
Thanks. So I have a couple questions, comments. First thing is that I think it comes as a little bit of a surprise that young families in a place like Finland would be having trouble with time, because in the United States we think of Northern Europe as a place where there's all sorts of provisions for young families that we don't have here, and all sorts of ways that people can have time that they don't have here. And it's certainly a huge problem here, the time, especially for people who have young families and who are sort of at the beginning of their careers. But in a way, I wonder if this whole e-commerce thing isn't kind of partly a way to sort of offset that issue without addressing the issue of how do you create time for these families and where did they lose this time.
Yeah.
And the other thing that I'm wondering about for the routine shopping is, in the long run, what sort of effects are you talking about for the socialization of young children, you know, if they don't ever have that sort of routine experience of being around other people and dealing with that. Other adults especially, because in school they'll deal with other children.
Yeah, good questions. And I don't have the real answers, only what I could be saying that I don't see that the shopping experience is that what is the learning place opportunity for children. There has to be something else. But anyway, all the questions you raised are very, very good for me, actually. You were the first. Sorry.
Could you use the microphone there so
I'm thinking about a smaller independent business. Is this something that really works better for larger retailers? Is it reward large retailers rather than the smaller independent business who really? And also, is there like a cost for the retailer to participate or to get involved with SeuLo, or is it absorbed entirely by the consumer?
Yeah, that is good. My feeling is, I don't know. My feeling is that that these kind of systems are going to support the small businesses. But all the time there is another side that large retailers, probably with their own online shopping and delivery systems, are going to be very efficient also at the same time. Maybe the combination of the services are maybe not that high, and maybe in the end, if these kind of systems are going to work, maybe there is the possibility that one family have the choice to order from a large retailer, or they have the possibility to order from there and also order at the same time from the smaller shop something, and let that independent service provider to do the logistics part for them. Yeah, that is. So probably there shall be several combinations possible in the end if this works. Yeah, please.
You said you wanted to learn the American perspective, so I'll offer about two items. One is you got three questions so far about the social impacts of e-commerce, and I think that there is a fear among many planners that we need to do our best to create more and more community. So if that means a farmer's market, which may increase the number of trips made, because you've got lots of smaller deliveries happening, that's very important for our social community needs. So I don't know if we're making too much of what you said before, but when we see an elderly person, we want very much to see the elderly person on a streetcar rather than waiting at home to get something delivered.
Right.
But the other thing I wanted to say is that my sense is in America, we don't, the e-commerce is being consumer-driven for the most part. So it's package services. We have had some shopping, delivery, things like that. And when we think in terms of logistics on the policy level, we're thinking more about the big ship that comes into port that has a 200-train carload that needs to be organized, or the thousands of truck trips that come to the airport and things like that.
Right.
So, and also our major concern, I think, in terms of logistics, is the peak hour, is the worst part of the day.
Yeah.
So I don't know if people disagree with me, but that's my sense.
Yeah. Thank you very much. And also for you raised the question for elderly people, and I was not very clear. The idea is that actually the car sharing taxi service should be for them. We have to invite them out from the homes. That is that. And only for time to time that shall be organized the other way around. It is not, we have really lost the point when we encourage them to stay at homes. Yeah. It was your turn. Yeah.
I was wondering if you're seeing any concerns or backlash from existing commercial delivery services, such as UPS already, to a large extent within their logistics, organizes their deliveries within an area. Are they concerned about a project like this? Are they cooperative with it, or?
Yeah, that is a good question for me, and especially that during the last day I have been visiting my family members, and one of those is a pilot in FedEx. And so we have been discussing this that actually this is something what those Ubers and FedEx should be, and probably will be organizing. This is open. Hopefully they are getting interested also for these very family-oriented services, and not only for this huge, interesting logistical systems. Probably I am as logisticians more, and probably a little bit also you are as logistician. Yeah, please.
So this would be more venting or input as a mother. Every time my kids get in an activity, I'm immediately looking for a carpool because it makes my life easier, and hopefully that other family's easier, and it's less pollution.
Yeah.
But the round of the library, the grocery store, and home, it'd be great if I could get that drop-off, but sometimes I wonder about the efficiency of, I guess I don't even think about my driving, I guess too much that American mindset. Yeah, that's just happening. But some of the libraries have that you can reserve your book online, and they'll even ship it to you for, say, $1 cost, and sometimes I feel cheap, or, well, what is that impact on the environment? There's now this delivery truck. If it were incorporated with other ones, that sounds very interested. On the families with young children, though, and the somehow organizing the rides more than me carpooling with another parent, you're talking about families being short on time, so I would guess that one of these services would need more time. Maybe there'd be more lead time because it's doing a route, so you have to get your kid ready earlier. They're going to spend time on the bus or whatever. How do you feel about that? And just a personal experience I had that was very frustrating several years ago. My son was going to a middle school, but his program was on a different schedule than most of his school, and he wanted to go to an after-school activity, but it started like an hour and a half after he got out, and I came up with the plan of, well, he could ride the bus home, but then when the bus came by again to drop off grade school kids, couldn't he just get on it and ride it back down to the middle school? And the district transportation system would absolutely not allow this. So, it can be very frustrating when you're trying to come up with a solution that you think, hey, it's there, it's working, this could work. So there needs to be a lot more change in thinking, and why do we have these restrictions?
And actually that is the case everywhere. Also in Finland, we do have those families interested in testing this kind of services, and they are saying that this is something that they really need. But how actually the reality is going to be, are we really able to get organized in that way that families, like I would like to say that the transportation needs of the families would be lowered a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think there are like a couple of examples already in Japan of this kind of system working.
Yeah.
And they use consolidation centers. So they use the convenience store.
Yeah.
Where they can drop things for the neighborhood. And then when people come back from work, they can pick them up. They already have a bundle.
Right.
And it's a great one because it reduces a lot the last mile delivery cost that is very expensive.
Yeah.
And two, it avoids the problem like many households are empty during the day.
Yeah.
So the company comes, and if it may be a valuable product or a product that needs to be refrigerated, you cannot just leave it outside.
Right.
So I think maybe you should, visit Japan and see how these things work, because it works very well there, because when people come back from work, they have these places close to the train stations, and then people can go and collect these things on the way home.
Yeah.
And I think it's a very nice concept, but you need density and you need good public transportation, and I don't know if that's the case in Finland.
So you think that could work here?
In some areas when you have density and good public transportation, but you need to organize this with the convenience store or someone that the convenience store benefits too, because then they get traffic into the business, so people go and pick up this and they buy something else, a newspaper, candy, or something else. So it works. It has to work for everyone. There has to be an incentive.
Yeah.
And in your analysis, I haven't seen anything about costs. And that's going to be a killer, because there have been a lot of companies that try to do these online deliveries, grocery especially, and it's very expensive. So unless you put cost and unless I think you look at other successful examples that are already working, I think it's very hard to materialize this with just good intentions.
Right. And actually, I didn't mention the costs, but the reality is that during our project, that is what we have been calculating the most, because that is very hard actually to reach the wanted service level with understandable costs, and that's why actually we came to the idea to consolidate, because then the families are ready to pay a little bit more, and that gives the possibility to have that as a profitable service. In our testing period, the fee for collecting the daily goods and delivering those home is 10 euros. And for some families, it's too much. And that is what we have been starting anyway. And the company at the moment is not making profit, but also not losing money at the same time. So during the learning time, that should be profitable. And for me, it was very interesting to hear that there are examples, because that has been one of our problems, that companies ask that sounds interesting, where are the examples? And so we said we don't know.
In Japan, in some areas, they have to do it because the city doesn't allow, they force companies to consolidate.
Yeah.
So the congestion is so bad that they have to do it. They don't have a choice.
Yeah. Could I have later on information? Yeah, please.
Can I add a quick, that idea of a drop-off location? I mean, this isn't nearly to that extent, but it instantly reminded me of what does happen in some places in the U.S. is with farm boxes. I mean, there's sort of a local agricultural movement of local farms. You subscribe to the farm, and each week you get a box of a variety of produce. And I know a lot of those use that drop-off location idea.
Yeah.
They're all the boxes are dropped in a location, and then everyone who subscribes goes and picks it up from the location.
I see.
And it gets a little bit at the social, because I know people who do that, you know, they meet people at, you know,
Yeah,
gathering
yeah.
the farm box.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, that is also interesting to hear. Those are the examples also what we are missing, and for me it's very nice to hear that they are already running on systems which have similarities. Yeah, please.
Well, so your organizing principle is the private sector providing a service.
Yeah.
I'm interested in perhaps where government may have a role in sort of rationalizing the marketplace. You know, in my neighborhood, we have deliveries from UPS, DHL, FedEx, of course, the Postal Service already visits every house every day. Wouldn't there be a potential for sort of cost rationalization to find a way, perhaps with encouragement of government through some regulation, but then to have the private companies rationalize the delivery system so they weren't duplicating each other's activities, and maybe take both cost and vehicle miles traveled out of the system in the process?
Yeah, I don't know. My feeling is that that the consumer and the families, they are the decision makers, and they should be the decision makers in here. And if this kind of service is for them beneficial enough, so they are inviting the service providers to let them, the families themselves, to consolidate, and not only having different kind of courier companies coming on your door. But that depends where we are, and I don't really know. Please.
Well, just to comment on that, I mean, on sort of the other end of the spectrum, in Portland, 20 years ago, we had 5 different garbage companies that came on my block to pick up people's garbage, because we had complete free choice of what garbage company do you hire to come pick up your garbage, and they were on different days. And the city council actually changed that. They created a franchise system, and so now only one company is allowed to. I mean, we can only have one garbage company, and that's the one that comes and picks up everybody's garbage on my street. So there is a role for government in controlling some of those things.
Yeah.
I did just want to respond about the children and the shopping, because when 20 years ago, when my kids were little, we actually had Alpenrose delivering milk, eggs, and bread, I think 3 times a week, to my porch. And it was wonderful, because the least qualitative experience that my children had was being forced away from the games they were playing out in the yard or wherever, or going to visit with their friends, and having to go with me to shop. And actually, since we were walking, then they had to walk up the hill since I was carrying the groceries, and they just hated that. So I think that giving families more time when they have small children by delivering stuff is actually a wonderful model, and I was devastated when Alpenrose stopped delivering.
Yeah. Thank you, and thank you also for the example from the recycling area, that there might be a role for getting better organized, supported by the governments, local governments, authorities. Yeah, actually that was your principal question. Yeah, please.
Thanks, Chris. In the United States, anyway, and this may be true in Finland also, I think a lot of retailers, especially in the groceries and department stores, they count on people to come into their store and make impulse purchases, right? So they set up point-of-purchase displays, and they try to get you as you're paying to buy candy. But, I know if I go into a grocery store, I see all these other things. So maybe I go in wanting to buy milk, bread, but I come out with milk, bread, beer, candy, snow tires, So how can you convince retailers to join your service? And how do you convince them that they will not lose sales because of losing traffic?
Yeah, actually, that question is what the retailers are worried the most at the moment, related to online shopping. And I don't have good answers, but I'm only, like quite many others, I'm wondering that maybe also in the internet impulse shopping is possible and actually very easily organized. And even if I am willing to open a little bit my needs, so there will be the very nice offerings immediately for me, because the information is better organized as in a huge retail shop. But this is actually a very good question. And I don't know.
The internet, the same retailer has to benefit from the internet purchase.
Yeah.
Because if you're substituting retailers, one online for one, like physical existing one, then obviously there's going to be big opposition.
Yeah.
So it's very tricky.
This is very tricky area, and there is no direct answers, at least at now. We do have among our testing families, we do have around 80% of the families which are willing to give a profile of the interests, so that service providers are better able to do marketing towards their needs. And that is something what is in actual systems not really possible. So there will be interesting times coming on. So.
Any additional questions? Well, before we thank our speaker, I also want to put in the plug for next week's speaker, who's Lewis and Lem. He's going to be talking about taming the dragon, reducing the climate impact of the transportation system, so somewhat related. And thank you very much for joining us today, Erkki.
Thank you to you. That was, I enjoyed the discussion part. Thank you very much.
My card. I
Thank
can
you.
send you some references that we do.
Thank you very much.
So just send me an email.
Yeah.
And it's easier if I just send you by email.
Yeah, thank you very much.